Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to a brand new week and welcome to a brand new edition of what we call Shifting the Culture. I am your host, Conscious Kurt, in the flesh as always, and this man needs no introduction, but he's going to give you one anyway. Break it down for him.
What's going on, Conscious Kurt? This is King Khan, live and direct from the A. So shouts out to you, and let's go ahead and get started.
Yeah, let's get it in. So this past Tuesday, we had the BET Hip Hop Awards broadcast. Although they were taped the week before, they officially did come on last Tuesday night, and I have to say, it was a solid ass show. I haven't said that about an award show in years, but I can say that about that show last week. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. What'd you think?
Yeah, it was definitely a good show. I like how they paid homage to, the hip hop anniversary, or 50-year anniversary of hip hop. So it was nice to see some of the legends and also some of the up and coming artists and new artists that are making an imprint on the game. So it was definitely a good show. I don't agree with all the winners and the losers. So we'll get into that. But overall, I think it was a good show.
Yeah, it was crazy how the show kicked off also with the Cash Money performance with Manny Fresh coming out and Juvenile coming out, BG. Yeah, it was a nice way to start it off. And considering it was in Atlanta and the South and all that, what better way to kick off the show?
Yeah, definitely. Atlanta's become, I would say, the hub of hip hop over the last decade, maybe even more, because New York's always held the crown, which will always be like the word hip hop started. But over the last 10, 20 years, the ATL and especially the South have made a mark on the culture.
Yeah, and they deserve their flowers, no doubt about it. And we had the show hosted by Fat Joe. I have to say, Fat Joe was a solid host. I've never really seen him host an award show before, but yo, he was pretty in his element in this. I got to admit.
Yeah, Fat Joe definitely did his thing. I was glad that he was able, to host a show, being from the Bronx, from where hip hop started. So I'm glad that he had somebody who's been an icon, and he's been in the culture, for over 30 years. So it was glad to see that at least, somebody who's made an imprint on hip hop was actually a host, not just somebody random or some comedian that they wanted to put up there.
Yeah, it's crazy how far Fat Joe has come from like when he first came out in '93. Who would have ever thought that dude who like came out with that album Respect and like his whole flow and his whole style back then would go on to have like the hits he would have in the 2000s and then to be in like movies and be in commercials and then to be the fucking host of the BET Hip Hop Awards, bro. This dude is a success story if I've ever seen one, no doubt about it.
Yeah, he's definitely doing his thing. He has his new sneakers, his Air Force Ones on the Terror Squad Air Force Ones that just came out, which he's been promoting. He's all over the internet, so he's definitely doing big things. And I was glad to see that Fat Joe's come, such a long way, and it's still relevant in the game. So it's good to see that.
Yeah, Big Pun will be proud.
Yeah, and you can't just say, like, I know that was a knock on Fat Joe. Oh, he's only big because of Big Pun. Well, Big Pun's been gone for like what, 20 years now, and Fat Joe's still relevant. He still makes good music. He had all the way up that came out a few years ago. That was one of the biggest songs of that time. So yeah, Fat Joe's still doing his thing out here.
And Lean Back, how the fuck can you forget Lean Back? That shit like put him on another level. Fuck me, son.
Yeah, so yeah, Fat Joe's definitely a staple in the game. Definitely helps shift the culture and help represent for the Latin artists as well.
Yeah, and one other thing I liked about the show was that how it was very big on like paying homage to the producers and homage to the DJs, which was evident in the opening of the show when we had that back and forth segment between D Nice and also Kid Capri. Yo, that shit was mad fire, bro. That was one of the best parts of the whole show, to be honest.
Yeah, that was really dope. That DJing and MCing, all that stuff is a big part of the culture and how hip hop, started. So it's glad to see that BET paid homage to, some of the originators who've helped pioneer this culture and push it forward. So it's glad to see that, BET, they normally get a bad rap for the award shows. They don't really like, do the right thing or have the right winners, but at least they try to do the thing to pay homage to the 50 years of hip hop.
Yeah, I've been like somebody who's been very critical of BET the last decade or so, and yeah, I've shied away from most of their content, their award show specifically. But after going back and watching this show, it definitely kind of felt like being back in the original BET, at least for one day, and I fucks with that.
I don't think they'll ever go back to the original BET, times have changed, and a lot of things have changed between when we first, grew to love BET. But it was definitely good to see, like, they put a good show together. What was your favorite performance other than the DJs? What was a performance that stood out to you?
LL Cool J bodied it for the Marley Marl dedication. Yo, he bodied it.
Yeah, that was definitely a dope performance. One thing I did like was the So Def reunion. I think that was pretty dope. How they
Oh
brought back
shit,
all of the old So Def stars, even like the ones that you didn't even think, like the franchise boys, the White Tee, and then even Bow Wow came out. Like I was hyped, man. I was normally those artists wouldn't get me hyped, but it was just dope to see them. And like if you realize it, like those songs were pretty. Like My White Tee was a really big song back in that time when it came out, and a lot of people wearing the triple XL white tees, so they definitely had an impact on the culture. And just Bow Wow, doing his thing with with the little kids and the teenagers and the Scream tour and all that. So it was just cool to see So Def and all those artists, the Brat. Who else was out there?
Ludacris, Lil Jon.
Yeah, Little Chris. He brought out Little John. So yeah, it was dope to see some of the other artists from the A come and represent and just show that, show how good of a legacy that So Def put together. Jermaine Dupri, did a great job of putting a lot of artists on, a lot of artists that like young artists, old artists, and he definitely is a legend in the game.
Yeah, what Diddy is to New York, that's what JD is to Atlanta. That's the comparison I make.
Yeah, hopefully they Diddy and JD can definitely can finally have this versus battle that they've been talking about for the longest. I think that would be dope because they both kind of do the same thing as far as the remixes. They have hip hop and also R&B acts, so it would be dope to see them go head to head in a versus battle.
Yeah, 31 years of So Def, 31 years of JD. Yo, it's definitely something worth celebrating. And speaking of verses, the Cultural Influence Award was given out during the Hip Hop Awards, and the persons who received that award were Swiss Beats and Timbaland. And I can't think of two people any more deserving. Two of the most influential producers, probably of the late 90s, 2000s period. Those two definitely deserve their flowers and everybody else's flowers at that.
Yo, yeah, definitely. Those were like you could any hit song during the 90s, 2000s was produced by either Swiss Beats or Timbaland and probably Pharrell as the other one. Those three, if you couldn't come out with a song without, that was a hit record without having them produce it at that time. So it's dope to see that they got their flowers in front of in front of the audience and in front of the world. So that was good to see.
Yeah, without Timberland, there would be no Genuine, there would be no Missy Elliott, no Nelly
Aaliyah.
Furtado. Yeah, Aaliyah. Well, Aaliyah was kind of a star before she got with him, but it was a different vibe definitely
But
when
yeah,
she
he
got with
definitely took her to another
Timberland.
level. They went to another level.
Definitely.
Also
No,
another
also
one.
One Republic. He put those One Republic dudes on too.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah, that song was
Yeah,
pretty big.
yeah, apologize. Yo, yeah, that shit was no joke back in '08.
Yeah. For some reason, when that song came out, I thought it was like an old song that he would sample that was sampled, and then they just, put it out. But I didn't realize that was like a brand new song back at that time.
Yeah, the first time I saw the video, I'm like, yo, this is a Timberland record? What the fuck? And then that shit blew up, and then they blew up at that too. They're fucking huge now.
Yeah, they are. But yeah, it's good to see that not that our the producers start out in hip hop, but they can venture off into different genres, into pop, into other things. So it's good to see that.
Yeah, and Swiss Beats' resume speaks for itself. Without him, there's no DMX, any of the Rough Riders crew, Cassidy, who I was really happy to see in the cipher. I was really happy to see Cassidy.
Yeah, let's talk about the ciphers. So yeah, you talked about Cassie. Who else stood out to you during the ciphers?
Lady London. Lady London was mad dope.
Yeah, she definitely killed it. I think she went on the Jay-Z nigga what nigga who beat, and I think she murdered that beat. She killed it.
Yeah, she did Jersey proud in that verse, no doubt about it, bro.
Yeah, that was the first time I think I've heard of her once or twice before. I don't think I really heard any of like her singles or anything like that, but that was the first time that I actually like watched her and saw her like at she had a really good look being on the cipher. So she killed it and she did a thing. She was probably one of the best female that was in the ciphers. And I feel like all the ladies did their thing, but I would say Lady London is definitely the one that stood out to me.
Yeah, I think Lady London was not only the best female in all the ciphers, I think she was the best female that performed the whole night period, from the ciphers to the performances. She's the one who stood out to me most.
Yeah, I definitely want to check out more of her music, and but I definitely love her style and how how she did the cipher. It was a good look. Yeah, I was gonna say I definitely liked seeing Cassidy because I haven't seen him in a while. It's good to see him and Swiss Beats back together, and he did his thing over that which beat was it again that he went on? Was it a Jada Kiss beat?
Oh, blood pressure, blood pressure. Yeah, it was
Oh yeah,
blood pressure.
yeah, it was definitely a Locks beat. So yeah, that was a dope freestyle that he did. Yeah, another artist that stood out to me was that Mexican OT. He's an up and coming artist out of Texas, Houston, Texas, and he actually did just release a song with Paul Wall not too long ago that was pretty dope. So he reminds me a lot of Paul Wall. So it's dope to see both of them, or he actually hear both of them on the same track. And I just love the way he flows and just he's putting on for the Spanish and Latin artists or rap artists. So it was good to hear him, and he definitely murdered it and killed and did his thing. And I also want to give a shout out also to I'm sorry, who else other than who we mentioned, Cassidy and a couple others, who else stood out to you in the ciphers?
Simba was also dope. The dude from Cali.
Yeah, he's definitely dope. I should if you haven't already, you should check out his mixtape that he dropped with DJ Drama a few months ago. It's pretty dope. Yeah, you
I'll
should be able
check
to.
that out. And also Texas royalty Bun B. Bun B fucking bodied it too, as he always does.
Yeah, Bun B is a legend in the game, so he definitely put on for Houston.
One of the best prodigies to ever come out of Texas. It's probably Bun B, Scarface, and I think you probably might have to throw a Chameleonaire in there. Yeah, those are definitely three of the top to ever come out of Texas, no doubt about it.
I hear that. So, what about the winners and losers? Who do you hear? Did you have any problems with any of the awards that were given out? Anything that stood out to you that maybe that they shouldn't have won, or maybe given it to
Honestly,
somebody else?
it's crazy. I watched the show on TV yesterday, and they only broadcast two of the categories. They only broadcast the breakthrough artist category and the best international flow category. I didn't see any other winners or any of that. That's why I was so surprised when I was watching the show. I'm like, wait a minute, isn't this an award show? Where are the awards at? What the fuck?
Yeah, I
I
did
still
see that.
enjoyed the show. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah, I think this show was mostly to pay homage to the 50-year anniversary of hip hop. So I think that was what most of the show was about. But I did see a couple of awards. I saw that Ice Spice won, I think like the best new artist. I saw that.
mm,
Also I did see that for podcast of the year, hip hop podcast. I saw that Carisha Please won, which is Carisha from the City Girls. She I didn't agree with that one because I felt like there was a lot more podcasts dedicated to hip hop that were much more influential and also that release more more episodes because Carisha only drops like an episode once every few months, and like Drink Champs and $1 million worth of game, they consistently drop new episodes every week. So I felt like they should have gotten it over Carisha Please, but you know how politics work sometimes with these awards shows. So somebody paid somebody to make that happen, but I don't think she should have taken that award home. I'm sorry.
yeah, like I said, I only saw two of the categories. I don't even know who won any of the other ones. Honestly, now that I look at it, maybe that's the reason why I enjoyed the show so much, because there was less of that and more performances and more, video tributes and all that jazz. That's probably why I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, because sometimes that does leave a sour taste in your mouth when you watch these award shows and then like the people who shouldn't win always win. Like it's always something that that gets you upset. So I hear you on that. I can see why. Yeah, you like the more of the performances rather than than the than presenting the awards to the winners, different categories and whatnot.
But it wasn't really much that. It's just the fact that I don't really watch award shows like that anymore. Like this is the first like real one I watched from start to finish, I think in like a good decade or so. So like yeah, the awards thing, like it doesn't really like excite me like that. Like when I watch award shows, I watch them now. Like if I do watch them for like a performance or yeah, like a video tribute or anything like that. So that's why in this regard I enjoyed this show so much, because it was more of what I was looking for.
I feel you. One thing we can't forget about is the I Am Hip Hop Award went to DJ Marley Marl. Shouts out to Queensbridge. But he was definitely I felt like he didn't get as much respect as he should have. Even Swiss Beats had to stop him in the middle of him talking to make people like stand up and really celebrate him because he was the one of the originators of he created sampling in hip hop. Like how many songs that you hear, like you can't even hear a song these days without hearing some type of a sample. And he was the one that originated that and started that and shifted the culture and took beats and melodies into a whole new level. So I was glad to see that he was honored in that way. I wish it was just in a different audience, people who actually know who he was, but nonetheless, he still got represented and still took home that award.
Yeah, it was a good look. I like the video package they did for him. I didn't realize that he was the one behind Roxanne's Revenge from Roxanne Shante. I didn't realize that that was him. Good shit.
Yeah, so he's definitely a legend.
And also the symphony. How the fuck can you forget the symphony? And then Mama Said Knock You Out. I was kind of mad we didn't mention that song last week in like our first memories of like hip hop songs
Yeah,
from when we were younger, because that was definitely one of them. And Marley Marl was the driving force behind it.
yeah, definitely a legend in the game. Queens legend, hip hop legend. Definitely, made a mark in the hip hop, and he'll be remembered for forever, for years to come.
It deserves to be. And I liked how Rakim and LL Cool J performed for him, especially LL Cool J, who still has it even after 40 years of being in the game. Yeah, that dude knows how to perform, bro. He knows how to body it.
Yeah, he definitely put on a good show. It's good to see that the pioneers in hip hop, still have some gas still left, still sorry, some gas still left in the tank, and still put on a good show. So it was good to see some of the legends do their thing in front of the audience.
Yeah, for sure. And I liked how the show closed too with a DJ drama set with Fab coming out, T.I., and Jeezy, who no lie got one of the biggest pops of the night.
Yeah, Jeezy and the ATL legend, like not only just ATL, but just in the South and hip hop as a whole. Like he in the 2010s, he was killing it. All of his songs were big hits. So he's definitely a legend in the game.
Yeah, honestly, he's somebody who grew on me. I remember when he first came out in '05, I didn't have anything against him, but I wasn't like really into him and like was really a fan. But then as the years went on, like he really started to grow on me and I really started to appreciate him a lot more.
Nah, Jeezy was dope, man. Even the Thug Motivation 101, that whole album is dope. You can listen to the whole thing from start to finish. He has some joints on there. And then my President is Black, that song. So he has a
That's when I became more of a fan of his. Like that 2000, the My President is Black and I Put On for the City. That's like when I became more of a fan of
and
his.
then
It's
one
like
of my
that song.
favorite tracks with him was him and Kanye West, Can't Tell Me Nothing. That song was
Ooh.
dope. That was one of my favorite Kanye songs, probably if not my favorite Kanye song. Did Jeezy rap on that song from what I remember, or he was just he just did the ad libs on that song?
He did the ad libs. Yeah, he
I
didn't
could have
rap on
sworn he
it.
did a remix or something, but I gotta go back.
He rapped on Amazing. He rapped on Amazing with
Yeah,
Kanye, but he didn't rap on Can't
yeah,
Tell
he
Me
just had the
Nothing.
vocal. He just had his ad libs on it, but it was still dope nonetheless.
Yeah, fun award show, and I have to say, I don't care for her music so much, but Glorilla had a good performance. I gotta give flowers where it's due. Her performance was actually solid.
Yeah, she's doing her thing. She's representing for the young women in the game, so it's good to see her do a little thing, represent for the.
But I have to be honest, for throughout the night, most of the girls who I saw perform, like most of the girl rappers, most of it was the same shit. I hate to say it, but most of it was the same shit.
What'd you think about Sexy Red?
And like I said, like most of these female
Oh,
rappers nowadays, with the exception of Doja Cat, most of them sound the same. They talk about the same shit, rap about the same shit. So yeah, it's like hard to tell the difference of who's who.
yeah, I feel you. Well, the Sexy Red is blowing up right now. She has a bunch of songs that are on the radio and in the clubs. She was even on Drake's album, the last for all the dogs. She was on that album, so yeah, she definitely blowing up. I don't, I'm not really a fan of her music like that, but I gotta give her props for blowing up this year and coming a long way. I wouldn't have been surprised if she won like the best new artist of the year. That's how big of a year that she's had.
Yeah, definitely. I always give props where it's due. I'm never gonna knock anybody making money and making a good life for themselves. But if I'm not really a fan of the music, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm a fan of the music.
I feel you. So yeah, definitely overall a good show. I'm looking forward to next year to see if they can have 2 years in a row of a good award shows. I know this year was the 50-year anniversary of hip hop, so they definitely put a lot into it. So let's see if they can build on this award show and just continue to try to make the award shows better.
Definitely. And some more good content BET put out over the last week was the three-part documentary about Rap City that we both watched over the weekend. And I have to say, some damn good material they put out. Fucking love this documentary.
Yeah, it was a great documentary. Shouts out to Mass Appeal. Mass Appeal has been putting together a ton of documentaries over the last few years. They did the Juice Crew they did a couple years ago. I think they did a Wu Tang documentary. They did the Nas documentary. So they've been doing a lot of docs over the last few years, and they become like the go-to company anytime you want to put together a hip hop documentary. So shouts out to Mass Appeal for putting that together. But yeah, it was good to see BET pay homage to Rap City. Rap City was like a staple in the night well, at least when I was growing up in the '90s and in the 2000s. Like I would watch that show every day after school, and then even on the weekends when they had the top 10 countdown. So that show was like a staple of me, to me growing up. And I'm sure anybody who was a hip hop fan, everybody knows what Rap City is and how it influenced the game and what it meant to the culture.
Yeah, it was their flagship show. That was literally their flagship show.
Yeah, definitely. Rap City held it down. A lot of timeless interviews, freestyles, a lot of artists that were up and coming, like before they were big, before they were like big superstars, they were on Rap City, and that's you kind of saw how they kind of like how they evolved, and became what they became. But they had to start at Rap City. Rap City was like where they started, and then you saw how they blew up from there.
Yeah, it's so crazy how that show started. They just like, broadcast like a all rap week on BET one week, and it was like their highest ratings they ever did at that point. So that's what got them the slot for Rap City. And it's crazy that it started like right in the middle of that, like straight out of Compton, do the right thing, late 80s period. And yeah, just seeing the old school sign, the old school set, it's like, bro, this shit was like really around for a long time. And this shit has a lot of like heavy roots in hip hop. And it was basically BET's answer to Yo MTV Raps. Although in a way it was more influential and it did last longer.
Yeah, your MTV Raps was cool, but I feel like everybody in the culture gravitated to Rap City more. I'll say Rap City, like you said, it lasted longer, and just the freestyles, like everybody would sit there and wait till the freestyle part of the show came on. So and then you will always want to watch to see what artist is going to be on there, who's going to get interviewed by the host and kind of like talk about their album. And another thing that was dope was that Rhapsody used to go to like the artist to where the artist came from. They used to go to their hood so you can kind of see like where they came from and how they came up. So it was just a dope show, man, and it's truly missed to this day, man. It's been off the air for like what almost 20 years now, and people are still like talking about it, like wanted to bring it back. Like even though like times have changed, people still want that content. It was just just a different time, but that show was definitely go down in history as one of the best shows of the culture.
Yeah, honestly, I think if there was no Rap City, there would have been no Breakfast Club or Drink Champs.
Right.
Very influential to a lot of those shows we see today.
Yeah, it's definitely shifted the culture, and that was a place where you can go. You can see up and coming DJs, up and coming producers, artists, A&Rs, like everybody who's anybody went through Rap City through the basement and sat on the couch with Big Tig and some of the other hosts like Big Les and Joe Claire. That's kind of like when I started watching Rap City when they were on.
Yeah, mid 90s.
Yeah, the early mid '90s or late '90s. So around that time, it was just a dope time, man. And then for them to even have like the Biggie's final video interview, which was dope, and that solidified the legacy even more.
Yeah, it's crazy. That was literally his last interview, like in LA, literally right before he died. And even Joe Claire, when they were interviewing him, he was talking about like, when he found out that Biggie died, he's like, what the fuck? I just interviewed him. How the fuck is he dead now? It kind of reminds me of, in a sense, like All the Smoke also, how they had Kobe's last interview, like literally
Yeah,
3 weeks
before he
before he
died.
died.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a very similar thing. Yeah, very similar.
yeah. When things like that, that's kind of creepy. When things like that happen, like it's just weird. Like how Kobe never did interviews, but he did an interview and then he passes away. It's like almost like he had to do that before he passed away. It was kind of weird in a way. Same thing with Biggie. And I just remember that getting that phone call when Biggie passed away. Like I didn't want to believe it. One of my friends, my childhood friends, had gave me a call and was like, "Yo, did you hear what happened to Biggie? He got shot." I was like, "Nah, you're lying." And then I turned on MTV to check because MTV used to have that breaking news update all the time. The Kurt Loder used to come on with that breaking news, and it came on and said the Notorious B.I.G. was gunned down in L.A. and I was like devastated. Like Biggie was like the biggest artist. He was my favorite artist when I was growing up. Like I was devastated and shocked. I couldn't believe it when I heard that news.
Yeah, it bummed me out too. I was a little younger than you were, but when you told me that he died that day, I was definitely surprised and yeah, also sad.
Yeah, Biggie was that dude, man. It sucks that his life was cut short because I feel like he was, he had that drop that one album, Ready to Die, and Life After Death was about to come out right before he passed, and I felt like he was going to solidify himself as he did still go down as one of the best ever, but I felt like he was taking that next step like to household name where like even pop music, and pop radio know who the hell he was, so he was taking that next leap.
Yeah, there was definitely a big difference, especially production wise, between Ready to Die and Life After Death. You could definitely tell like a lot more money and a lot more attention went into it. It was like a much bigger project. And yeah, it's so crazy. And especially if you look at the Hypnotized video, yeah, it definitely looked like he was gonna, get to that next level. And then before it could even happen, he got taken out. It's mad
Yeah.
fucked up.
I'm not gonna lie, I hated Hypnotize. I hated that song. I hate it. Like if that song comes on the radio, I skip it. Like I hate that song because the reason why is because Biggie to me was especially the Ready to Die album was like an underground album, hardcore hip hop, and then I felt like Hypnotize was like now I'm commercial and shit. So I wasn't feeling that. So fortunately he passed away, but I don't know if maybe he would have went more commercial, from there. Maybe that would have been a turning point where maybe how some artists they're dope when they first come out, they're hungry, they're more underground, and then they have a couple hit records, and all of a sudden they're commercial, and you don't want to hear them anymore. Like they get watered down, and they're not the same artist anymore. So
He's like
I was
that.
kind of concerned about that. I was kind of concerned about that with that song and how the video was, how they spent millions of dollars on the video. They're in boats and all that. They're in Versace this and Versace that. So I felt like maybe he was taking that commercial turn, but that's why I can't fuck with that song Hypnotize. I'm sorry, I just hate it.
Yeah, that fucking video reminded me of a scene from Bad Boys. That's how fucking over the top that shit was.
It was definitely too much, and who knows what would have happened from there. But
Look,
I just wasn't.
it
Um,
look, it's not my favorite song of his. I'll never call it his best song by any stretch, but it was cool for what it was. It was a cool little catchy single. It's cool for clubs. I'll give it that. It's definitely a cool club song.
yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm cool. I'm straight off of that
Yeah, it's
song. That's the
definitely a
one Biggie
con.
song I can't fuck with.
Yeah, there's a big contrast between that and the first single off of Ready to Die, the Juicy video. Huge fucking night and day
Yeah,
contrast.
it's like night and day. But at least you could see the growth at least in the artist and how big he was when he first came out versus how he was after his first album came out, and then after he jumped on all these different songs and did remixes. So yeah, Biggie was that definitely that dude, man.
Yeah, the one consensus from like the documentary and also from people who've told stories about Biggie like around that time is that he seemed like he was at peace and like in a good place in his life at that point. And unfortunately, he didn't get to live long enough to enjoy it.
Yeah, I just feel like it was he died because of Pac died. I feel like it was a retaliation, and we're not gonna get into all the conspiracies and whatnot, but you could definitely tell it was some type of retaliation because of Tupac.
It could have been. It could have been anything, bro. It could have been anything.
And I've seen enough docs. It was definitely Suge Knight was involved some way somehow, him and his crew.
Yeah, it
So
sucks, man. And people were even warning him before he went out there, like, "Yo, this isn't a good idea. You shouldn't do this. You have a lot of heat on you." But he insisted on going. He didn't want to, be a part of that, divide anymore. He wanted to put an end to it. Like he even said in that interview that he wanted to be the one to, squash everything and turn it into like a more positive direction because Pac wasn't around anymore. So he had to be the person to take that responsibility. But before he could do that, they
he's
got rid
taken
of
out.
him.
Yeah, it was sad because yeah, he definitely could tell that he was like he was hurting from that from Pac. Like damn, like if Pac was like probably one of the biggest artists at that time, not just in hip hop, but you know he was well known. And for him to be taken out, that Biggie was like, damn, if Pac can get taken out, then maybe I need to chill out and kind of change and try to like, you know, try to mend the East versus West Coast beef, try to end it. And unfortunately, you know, he was taken out before he was able to you know to see that through. Just a sad story, man.
Yeah, but the one good thing that did come out of it was a lot of like East Coast and West Coast rappers and rappers in general that were feuding at that time. Like after that happened, they decided that it wasn't worth it anymore and to squash whatever beefs they did have. Like Ice Cube and Common, for example.
Yeah, well, that beef blew over because Nas was involved, Mobb Deep, Capone and Noriega got involved, the Dog Pound got involved, Snoop Dogg. So it was getting pretty nasty. How like the East and West Coast at each other.
Yeah, it was so funny. I remember like right after Biggie died, they did an episode of the Steve Harvey show where Snoop Dogg and Diddy were both on it. And when Cedric and Steve Harvey noticed that they're both there, they try to keep them separated because of the whole East Coast and West Coast thing. Like they go out of their way to, like say to like, keep them as far away from each other as possible. But then when they walk into the same room together, they realize like, yo, they're cool with each other. Like they don't buy into that bullshit. They're friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that moment
So I
actually.
feel like the media, yeah, I feel like the media kind of blew up the East versus West Coast beef more than it was, and it just sucks, man. That just sometimes the media can add fuel to the fire and make things bigger than and worse than what they really were. So it's unfortunate that we lost two legends before their time. Imagine if both of those artists were still around today. Like what could have happened? Maybe they could have did like Nas and Jay Z and squashed the beef and then made songs together. Like you never know what could have happened, man. It just sucks.
They could have been alive to receive like the lifetime achievement awards they've gotten and all the accolades they've gotten. Who knows? Tupac could have won an Oscar. You never know.
Yeah, because he was in mad movies. Yeah, you never know where he could have gone.
Yeah, definitely. But that's another story for another time. Let's get back into the Rap City doc. So one element that I liked of it was the whole journalism aspect of it, which Charlamagne kind of touched on about how a lot of the interviews, like specifically from Joe Claire and Big
So Claire.
Yeah, and Big Les and also Big Tigger specifically, like they really knew, about the artist and like they really knew like, what kind of information to get out of them and like, how to make them feel comfortable and how to relate to them in a sense. And that shit goes a long way in journalism is how you can relate to the people you talk to and like how you can get them to open up more. And the hosts were a big part of that. And that's why I think the journalism aspect of Rhapsody also deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, definitely the journalism on that show was A1. You got a lot of, like I said earlier, great interviews. A lot of they even, like I said, they went to the hood from where they were from, and in order to make the show good, like you have to have, you know, the host it has to know the culture. It has to be a part of the culture. You can't just have some random, you know, journalist or news writer come in and interview Lil Wayne in Louisiana or whatever, or go see Biggie in Brooklyn. Like you have to be part of the culture and you know what questions to ask them and know what the audience wants to hear. You know, they
Exactly.
ask the questions that people wanted to hear, and then yeah, then you could just see how timeless, like how timeless that show was, man. I just miss it so much, man. It's,
I think that whole hosting thing in general is kind of a lost art, like especially when it comes to shows like that. I mean, Charlamagne's great and Noriega's great and all that, but it's just a different vibe. It was just a different vibe back then, and I feel like that vibe of being a host is definitely something that you don't really see as much anymore.
yeah, it was more original and more like down to earth. I feel like nowadays things is more about clicks and likes and how many views, and it's more like about like engagement. It's not about like you know what's right and wrong or what you know what's cool and what not cool. It's about engagement now. It's about numbers. So that's kind of like what watered down.
Yeah, because the thing with like Big Tigger and AJ and Free and also Joe Claire and Big Les is the fact that whenever they were there, whenever they were around, it looked like they were having fun and they felt like they would be fun people to hang out with. And that was the vibe of it that I liked so much is that they had like a fun energy and like an energy you always wanted to tune into. Yeah, they were a big part of why you
Yeah,
wanted
they
to
just
watch.
felt like they were just
Yeah,
chilling.
yeah. More even with the guests aside, like the guests they would have aside, a big part of why you wanted to watch the show was them.
Yeah, definitely. So definitely a show that's gonna be missed. I'm sorry, that's not going to be missed, but it is missed to this day.
Big Tigger was so crazy when it came to his freestyles that a lot of artists didn't want to go in the booth when they would come to Rap City because they felt like they couldn't hang with him.
I'm not gonna lie, Big Tigger did his thing, and he made some of these artists look, look kind of bad because some artists they can put a song together if they take their time, write it out, and put it together. But when it comes to freestyling in the booth, like off the top, like just straight off, off the dome, and freestyling like that is not many people can do that. You have to have a mind to be able to think that fast. So he was able to do that, and he put some of the biggest artists, he put them to shame. It's to the point where Big Tigger even was on songs. I remember he was on that Snake song with R. Kelly. He was on a couple other songs too back in the day. So Big Tigger did his thing, man.
Yeah, and when Big Tigger hosted the show, it became the basement, and it's so crazy that the set was so designed to be a basement, like so authentically that when the artists were on there, like it tripped them out that it wasn't an actual basement. Like it looked, they like watched it on TV and like actually thought it was a basement. Like when they got there and realized that it was a set, they were like, "What the fuck? This shit is a fucking set. It's not a real thing."
Yeah, that was dope. I saw that part of the documentary where they showed the behind the scenes and how it was set. I always thought like it was somebody's basement and then just recorded out of the basement, but I didn't realize it was like a set at a production studio and it just made it look like it was real life. But I just miss, man, the basement, man. When he used to reference Mama Tigger down in the basement, and then people would come down the stairs, like, oh, who's that at the door? And then you'll see like Mobb Deep come downstairs or Wu Tang come down, like, just dope, man. It was just a dope show.
Yeah, like I said, it was one of BET staples. That show was on for literally 20 years almost. But as great as the basement was and as dope as it was, the whole vibe of it, one of the things that was kind of the start of the downfall was when BET left Washington D.C. and moved to New York in 2000. They like Big Tigger even said himself, and the producers even said themselves that like once that move happened, it just wasn't the same vibe anymore because that BET building in D.C. they owned it. That was like their building, but then when they moved to New York, it was not their building anymore. Like it was pretty much all corporate from that point on, and it was still fine and it was still great in the early 2000s, but from 2005 on is when I started to notice a change and not a change for the better.
Yeah, it's just that they're gonna go with whatever is selling or whatever is making money at the time, and at the time, 106 in Park and TRL were like the biggest shows on TV, so they were kind of going head to head, and just BT decided to put most of their money into 106 in Park, and a lot of the big name artists would go to 106 in Park because it was a better look for their career versus going to Rap City, where Rap City was more like a show for like up and coming artists and artists who were not like established yet. So yeah, it was just sad to see how the politics and just the way that society was changing, how it affected the show, and unfortunately led to its demise.
Yeah, once 106 came around, I didn't realize how like deep the beef was between both shows to the point where yeah, a lot of artists wouldn't even go on Rap City because they would choose to go on 106 instead. And it wasn't just artists that would be on 106 in Park. It was actors, it was basketball players, everybody was on 106 in Park.
Yeah, everybody who was part of the culture was on 106 in Park. So
And people
yeah,
out
that
of
was
the
definitely
culture.
another.
Fucking Tom Cruise was on there once.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, they had mad like
Tom
A-list.
Cruise being on.
They had like mad A-list actors on 106. Denzel was on there once.
Yeah, I remember that. Remember Denzel.
And Freestyle Friday was dope.
Yeah, Freestyle Friday was dope. I remember when the Asian dude Jin was on there. He was killing it. So there were a couple other dudes that were doing their thing on Freestyle Friday. But the thing is with freestyles, they're not really free. A lot of the time, they're not really freestyles. They're like songs that it might be like they'll play the beat, but it's basically like a written track that they just match it to whatever beat that the DJ puts on. So they're never really freestyles. That's kind of like, I don't know, what would you say? Like freestyle wouldn't be the right word. It's probably like a song that they already put together. That they just say that is a freestyle, but you could tell that they already practiced it or had it memorized or whatnot. It's not like really
Yeah.
off the dome like how some of the old school people used to do.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, like that Redman freestyle that they posted online a few weeks ago. It's dope, don't get me wrong, but it's not a freestyle. Chances are it's probably not a freestyle.
Yeah, so freestyle, yeah, that word can be just tossed around, but it's not really a
Stretch.
freestyle. Yeah, it's a stretch.
Like the Big L 98 freestyle from the big picture. It's dope as fuck, but bro, that's not a freestyle. There's no way that's a freestyle.
Yeah, or maybe they took multiple takes. Maybe the first run maybe might have been a freestyle, and then maybe they went back in and fixed it up and re-recorded it. But I don't know. I've never. You could hear like if it's a freestyle, you could hear somebody messing up or pausing or things like that. But you like if it's flawless like that, you could tell that it's memorized.
Yeah, definitely. But in the basement in Rap City, you had to be nice. That's what I feel like is missing from like today's culture a lot. Is like when it came to shit like that, you had to be nice. Like you couldn't just be some Joe Schmo or some average performer who had like a catchy song but couldn't rap for shit. Yo, you had to come hard when it came to the basement and things like that. Like you were not gonna get away with being average, no, not by any stretch.
Yeah, times were different back then. Like you had to have skill. You had to be a real artist. Nowadays, it's just like if you have a hot single and you got some followers, then you could maybe blow up. But back then, like you actually had to have skill. You had to have a story, a message that you're trying to portray. But just times are different now, man.
You wouldn't catch like Lil Yachty or freaking Soldier Boy and Rap City.
And that's another thing. Now you mentioned Soldier Boy. I would say maybe when he came out, that's maybe when hip hop kind of shifted to more like commercialized music and more like friendly, not as underground, kind of songs and more catchy. So that's when I would say that's when the tide turned, like in that 08, 09, when those type of songs started coming out.
Yeah, they even mentioned it on the documentary. Like when Soldier Boy Tell Him came out, that's like when he was like kind of like the first rapper in a sense to go viral. And once people could like watch their videos on YouTube and watch them online, they didn't need to go out of their way to come home and watch shows like Rap City and TRL anymore. So that's like around the time those shows started to become obsolete and they ended up getting canceled. And unfortunately, we no
Yep.
longer have them.
The on-demand era, that's kind of started too, where you didn't have to watch things live. You can just go back and watch it whenever the hell you wanted. And when YouTube blew up, and people started throwing their videos on YouTube, like, wait a minute, I don't have to wait till Rhapsody comes on. I could just go on YouTube and watch the video anytime I want, and I can watch it as many times as I want to, and I can watch the explicit version too, not the edited version that they play on TV. So that was another thing that stood out and kind of shifted the culture.
Yeah, another thing to not like Soldier Boy for.
Well, you got to give him his props. You may not like his music, but he
I
definitely
know, I
he
know.
definitely had an impact and shifted the culture.
Yeah, and you got to give him his props where it's due, regardless of how you feel about his music. All right, but yeah, let's just close it out real fast. Like, yeah, the show ended up closing in 2008. Like, pretty much after Tigger left, they had a few other hosts after that, like Q45
Mad
and
Link, yeah, a couple other ones, but yeah, nobody was on the level of Big Ticket or Joe Claire and Big Les. Those were like the staples.
yeah, I always maintain that late 2008 period was just a dark time, and it was the start of a lot more dark times that were to come because, yeah, Rap City ends, TRL ends, that whole economy crash happened around that time also. So, yeah, those are the dark ages, bro. I always maintain that, like, that period was the dark ages. And one of the things we lost from that period was a great show like Rap City. And everyone on that documentary even maintained the culture really suffered from that show going away.
Yeah, there's something I truly still miss to this day. Hopefully, we can recreate the magic that Rap City had in some type of form. I know times have changed and we're on the internet and social media age, but hopefully we can kind of shows like Drink Champs and podcasts like that. They're trying to bring that essence back, but nothing will ever be like the same as Rap City.
Yeah, only one show like it, and may it rest in peace. So let's get into the Lauryn Hill tour that's currently going on right now, her 25-year anniversary tour of her Miseducation album. And her next stop on the tour is actually going to be tomorrow night at the Prudential Center in New Jersey.
Oh, nice. When did the tour start?
Not sure when it started exactly, but I do know it runs through December, and it actually comes here to Atlanta on November 27th.
Yeah, I noticed that they added a couple extra dates because I know that when she first announced the tour like a few weeks ago, Atlanta wasn't on there, but I know she has a big following in Atlanta, so it looks like she went ahead and added a few more dates. So like she's coming to Atlanta on November 27th to the State Farm Arena, so that should be dope. I know fans, they always have this thing where she won't show up on time. I get it. I've heard numerous stories, but I actually went to a concert. Fun story. I actually went to the what was it, the 9 Mile Fest a few years ago, a few years back, and she was one of the performers. And you know how everybody used to say, "Oh, she's not going to show up on time. She's going to be late or whatever. She's going to be hours late." So the MC on at the show was like, "Yo, Lauryn Hill is going to perform it next." I was like, "Okay, she's not. She's definitely not going to be on time. She's going to be, she's going to take a minute. So let me go get some food. Let me grab a drink." So as I'm in line, standing in line, fucking Lauryn Hill actually gets on stage. So I'm in the line and I missed like the first couple songs that she performed because I was getting food and drinks and food, for everybody because everybody said that, oh, she's gonna be late, and I listened to everybody and I fucking missed the first couple of songs. So
Damn.
that whatever that stereotype of her being late, that's not true. It happened a while ago, but I've been to a couple shows where she's been at and she's actually been on time. So I haven't seen her where she was like crazy late like that, like everybody says she is.
I like how she referenced it on King's Disease too.
Oh yeah, on that.
Song with Nas. Yeah, she bodied that verse, honestly. Yeah, she fucking bodied that verse.
Yeah, that definitely that was a standout track for the King's Disease too. Yeah, she did her thing and she addressed all the rumors and all the things that people have been saying about her the last few decades ever since that album came out. So one thing I did notice though is when Lauryn Hill was, announcing that she was gonna come out with, with this tour and celebrate the anniversary of the Miseducation Lauryn Hill, and she's also gonna go on tour with the Fugees. I saw a couple people online saying that Lauryn Hill is overrated.
Of course she is.
You think she's overrated?
No, I'm being sarcastic. Bro, hip hop fans are just as toxic as wrestling fans are.
But I don't think if you're a true hip hop fan and a hip hop head, I don't think you would say that Lauryn Hill is overrated because that means you don't know anything. You don't
Of,
know shit about hip hop if you say Lauryn Hill is overrated. Because I don't know if you got nobody if in the '90s there are not too many female hip hop artists, and the ones that came out they had to be nice and you had to be spitting like some real shit. And she was one that was holding her own against some of the dudes. And I would probably say she was the best one out of the Fugees by far, as far as lyrical ability. And that Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, that song, that album from front to back is classic. Like that song, what? How many Grammys? Like 10 Grammys she won that night.
yeah, she won a lot of Grammys for that shit. Yeah, that was the biggest album that whole year in a year full of many, many classic albums. That's the same year of It's Dark and Hell is Hot, Flesh of My Flesh, Capital Punishment, Aquemini, Things Fall Apart, to Cal 2000. She was with some heavy competition that year, and for her shit to stand out that much,
Yeah,
that's saying a lot, bro. As a female at that too, that's fucking saying a lot.
that was a really great year for music. And for you to say that she's overrated, like just going back to like the Fuji's first album, I'm sorry, not let me correct myself. The first commercial album was a score, but the other she did have another album. Well, I mean, sorry, the Fugees did have another album that came out before that, where they had that song, the Nappy
Yeah,
Head. Yeah,
94.
they had the song, the Nappy Heads was on there. Vocab was on there. So they had a couple songs. But when the score came out, that's what took her to a whole another level with Killing Me Softly, Ready or Not. Like that whole album was just a classic album and helped solidify her as one of the greats in the game. And then she dropped the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, which, like I said, was a classic. And I get it. People, would say that, oh, she's dropped that one album, never came out. But how many people, one, dropped a classic album, two, wants all these Grammys from that album, and three, another reason why she hasn't come out with another album is because she has an issue with the how the industry is. And that's why when you if you notice, I'm not if you ever been to one of her concerts, that you'll notice that she doesn't perform the songs the same way that they're originally composed. She kind of like remixes them and maybe uses like a live band and like some background singers to kind of change it because she doesn't want to actually perform the songs in their original capacity because of the legalities, and she doesn't want to she has an issue with whoever owns the masters to those songs. So she doesn't want to play with that and have to pay money and whatnot. I get that, but I definitely feel like we could have used her voice over the last few years. I get that part of it. Like she still could have come out with some music because her voice and what she says and just her message was just on another level, man. Not too many artists were like her and could speak to the females. She was one of the first artists that I remember. Queen Latifah also, shouts out to her, were like uplifting females and kind of like rapping and trying to bring females up because a lot of that time, a lot around that time, um, males were like putting females down, and Queen Latifah and Lauryn Hill were some of the artists who were trying to bring females back, bring females up, and in a more uplifting and positive way. So she definitely left her mark on the culture and shifted the culture in a great way.
It's so crazy though. Like the females are really holding it down when it comes to tours this year. From Beyonce, Taylor Swift. I know it's a different category, but still her nonetheless. And now Lauryn Hill. Yeah, the females have been killing it with the tours this year. Also Janet. Yeah, fucking Janet's
Yeah,
also
Giants
been on
on
that
tour.
shit too.
So yeah, so it's dope. So let's hopefully
Yeah, the females have had a good year.
So hopefully everything goes as planned. She's on time because I think this is her last shot, man. If she has any complaints with this tour, I don't think people are gonna really like take her seriously anymore. So she has to do good.
Yeah, that's another thing. That issue with like the record labels and all that in the music industry, I get. But also at the same time, there are things I have heard about her where she does bear a little bit of responsibility in the fact that, we haven't heard much music from her in the last
Mhm.
two
Right.
decades.
But like you said, that verse on that Nas album was dope. Yeah, that was probably I'm gonna lie, that was a better verse than Nas had on that song.
Yeah, Nas has gotten bodied on his own tracks before. It's happened.
Yeah, I know, but just well,
Yeah,
this
but
was
if
in a good way because Lauren, we haven't heard Lauren Hill in God knows how long, and then she did it. She addressed everything that people have been talking about her over the last few years. So it's good for her to kind of finally address it, and she sounded great on this track too.
yeah, she bodied it. Yeah, regardless of how you feel about her personally or whatever, about her being late or any other jazz, you gotta give props where it's due. When it comes to talent, when it comes to skill, she's second to none.
Yeah, and then one thing before we move on, we forgot to talk about "If I Rule the World." That song
Ooh,
alone, that
ooh.
song alone is one of the top. It got to be in the top 20, top 10 hip hop songs of all time. That song alone, and she did the hook on that song. So like there's no way she cannot be overrated. That song was one of the most influential and the biggest songs of the 90s.
Yeah, bro. A lot of people will say the dumbest shit online when it comes to hip hop because I follow a lot of like hip hop pages on Facebook. They'll come up with the dumbest, most ridiculous takes. And yeah, whenever I read them, I just scroll along and call it a day because just interacting with those dumb fucks isn't going to do you any good.
Yeah, I think people just put stuff just for shock value and just get clicks. I don't even think they really mean or understand what the hell that they're saying when they say Lauryn Hill is overrated. Like you don't know anything about hip hop, bro. Like come on now.
I've seen statuses they post saying that, oh, what good record did Nas ever put out? What good album did Nas ever put out? That dude sucks. That dude's whack. Yeah, I'll see posts like that all the time.
Speaking of a Nas album, did you hear about how Nas is going to re-release I Am in its entirety?
Yes, I did hear about this. I guess the 25-year anniversary of it is coming up in a few months, so I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, because I actually with that album was probably the most bootleg album in the 90s, I would say. That's when MP3s first started, coming out when people could download songs on like Livewire and Napster and whatnot. So that's one of the first albums that got like heavily leaked. And the original concept of that album was supposed to be a double album where Nas talks about how he when starts from well Fetus was supposed to be the first song where he's talking about how him being born, and then Undying Love was supposed to be the last track where he kills himself. So it's supposed to be like his version of like Ready to Die, basically. That's basically what it was going to be. And it was supposed to be a double disc, and it got heavily leaked, and a lot of the songs ended up on Nostradamus. Some of the songs ended up on I Am, the one that actually came out, and then some songs later came on the Lost Tapes. So I felt like if that was released the way it was supposed to be, it would have been there was no other 3 album run that would have been on that level. But I felt like Illmatic, it was written were two of the best hip hop albums of the 90s, and I probably say I don't know I would say it was written probably my favorite Nas album even over Illmatic. And then if I Am would have came out, if I Am it was written was nasty. I don't
It
care what
was
anybody
great.
say.
Yeah, it was great.
Illmatic is definitely a classic and a staple in the in the in the culture, but I don't know, it was written hit differently for me. I don't know what it was, but that album hit different for me.
That whole
But anyway,
year hit different, but that's another story.
yeah, we'll talk about that another episode. But the I Am, if it would have been released the way that it was supposed to being a double album with 27 tracks, that song would have from there would have solidified. Back then Nas is one of the greats of all time, and that kind of like the way that it leaked kind of left the opening for Jay Z to kind of attack Nas because it kind of like left a soft spot and left the opening after Biggie passed away, left the opening for Jay Z to try to make his mark in New York and also in the hip hop industry.
Yeah, I mean, I Am was cool. I Am was definitely a step down from the first two albums, but it was still cool for what it was. But Nostradamus, you know how I feel about that one. You definitely know my feelings on that.
Yeah, I don't think that album. I don't think that album was as bad as everybody says it was. There was some joints on there. There was still like shoot 'em up. That was on there. The song about the world. I forgot the name of that
New
song.
World, yeah, the sample, the Africa sample, the Africa
Yeah,
sample.
then there was a couple other joints on there. Come the DJ Premier song, "Come Get Me," I think was on there too. So there was like, some joints on that album.
Yeah, but I just remember that single Nostradamus, like just watching the video for it, and I said, "Bro, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck is this bullshit?"
Yeah, that reminded me of
Like,
like that reminded me of like when Biggie did "Hypnotize." Like I didn't really like that.
okay, fair enough,
That's
fair
kind of like
enough.
that's kind of like when Nas. You could tell that I Am was when Nas was trying to go and was being commercial, was going into commercial, and that's when the Belly was about to come out. So that time he was just going like on
Belly
a
already come out.
oh yeah, Belly, yeah, exactly. He was in movies and whatnot. So at that time, like he was going, he was more commercial. It wasn't like as an underground MC anymore. He was, people knew him at that time.
I'll compare I Am to DMX's, and then there was X. That's kind of like the same level I would put it at, where both of them had like very good first two albums, but then the third album wasn't as strong, but that was their peak commercially.
Right? Yeah, I know. I felt like yeah, because he had a song with Ali on there, DMX, Scarface. There was a lot of big name features on that album. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see because supposedly they're going to be dropping it on Black Friday. They're going to be dropping like a limited quantity of like the LP on November 24th. They're going to drop the I Am autobiography as it was intended to be released in '99. So it'll be dope to if you're a Nas fan or just a hip hop fan in general. It would be dope to kind of like get your hands on that. But if anybody needs that original leak, it's on YouTube. You can actually check it out.
Yeah, definitely. Go check that shit out. And before we get out of here, let's send a shout out to Joey Badass as he recently started out a mentorship program, which is called Impact Mentorship with the men being capitalized. And yeah, it's gonna be for black men and also Puerto Rican men to have mentorship and people they can look up to and go to for advice and get put in the right direction. And I applaud Joey Badass for doing this. I
Yeah,
like
shout
when
out
artists use their money to give back and do stuff
Yeah,
like
shout out to
this.
Joey Badass. He's definitely been one of the artists that I love to listen to. When anytime he comes out with an album, he doesn't drop all the time, but every time he does drop, he has some good shit to say. He has a message behind his music, and he's just a dope lyricist. So he reminds me of the '90s era's MCs, the way that he raps and the way that he puts together his songs. So it's glad that he's giving back to the community and this is big, man. Having a mentor is very important, especially if you come from like an area where it's underprivileged and you don't have a lot of resources. So being able to link up with a mentor is something that can help guide you in the right direction and help you save a lot of time in your career, and it can help you stay out of trouble and help you get on the right path. So shouts out to Joey Badass doing his thing. And if you want more information, you can go to Impact Men torship.org if you want to find out some more information. If you want to sign up, because it's looking for mentors in art, culinary, fashion, film, media, music, and sports. So if any of those categories stick I would say if any of those categories speak to you, then I would definitely go ahead and apply for that mentorship and see if you can get a mentor. And this is going from October 15th and it ends on October 29th. So visit impactmentorship.org and go ahead and sign up and see if you can be, get a mentor to help you out.
Yeah, having a mentor could definitely do a lot for you, especially if you're in that teenager age and you don't have like, a positive male role model at home or really one in general. Yeah, having a mentor could definitely lead you in the right path and it definitely could be a big breakthrough for you. So I definitely recommend anybody who needs a mentor or wants one to go and seek one because that shit can do wonders for your life.
Yeah, definitely. So shouts out to Joey Badass for doing something and helping shift the culture in a positive direction.
Yeah, but speaking of shifting things in a negative direction, let's get into our last story. As Jada Pinkett Smith just opened up this past week when she was on The View, I believe. Yes, I believe she was on The View. And she said that her and Will Smith have actually been separated for 7 years. So if people didn't dislike Jada Pinkett before, they definitely do after this. Because now it just feels like she's just looking for attention and she's looking, to make Will Smith look even worse than she already has made him look. And yeah, she's just not coming off well at all. It's not a good look.
Yeah, it's
Not a
not a
good
good look
look.
at all. You already know what time it is. She's trying to sell a book. So anytime somebody's trying to sell a book, they have to put controversy out there. I just hate that it's just Will Smith has to be like the tool that she uses
Her
to
punching bag.
or punching bag. Because like Will has been through a lot, man. Like Will is one of like other than Denzel, Will was like that dude when it comes to black actors. Like even just actors in general. Will Smith was that dude. He was in blockbuster movies. He was a rapper. Like he's done a lot of. He had a Fresh Prince. He had a lot of shows,
Sitcom star.
sitcom. Like see a lot going on. And for people like just for Jada just to continue to bash him publicly, like it's just like come on, man. Like I know you guys, you want to sell your books, but like don't do it at his expense. Like you're making him look so bad. Like I don't know how he comes back from this. He's just looking like mad soft right now.
Yeah, and you never heard him ever diss her like publicly or talk shit about her publicly. And yeah, just for years she's just been coming out with all these different stories. And even that one show where like she brought up the whole August Alsina thing, and that meme went popular with him crying and him all upset and all that. Yeah, just for years it's always just like one thing after another with her. And look, I don't know her personally. I never met her. I can't speak from that perspective. But just from all these different things coming out and her coming out with all this different stuff for all these years, it just doesn't make her look well. And it's like one of those things where like it's hard to take the girl's side. I know it's popular to take the girl's side nowadays and whatnot, but in this case, it's weird if you do take the girl's side.
Yeah, it's just not a good look. Yo, keep that stuff to yourself. We don't want to hear about it anymore. Like it's kind of like Blueface and Krishan Rock. I don't want to hear anything about them anymore or Jada and Will anymore. Like just leave that to yourself. Like everybody doesn't have to know everything. Like keep some secrets, in the family, like or we can hear about it later, many many years from now. But I don't want to hear this about Will Smith anymore. Like and then for him to slap Chris Rock last year at the Oscars, and then they weren't even together like that. Like they're separated. Like come on, bro. Just putting, and then every interview she does, she's talking about Tupac this and how he was the love of my life and we're soulmates.
Oh
And
my
how,
god.
how does that make Will Smith look like? It's just not a good look at all, man. She just needs to stop.
But one good thing that has come out of this is the fucking memes. The memes have been fucking hilarious.
Yeah, social media is gonna go in. The internet's undefeated, so internet's gonna go and make jokes about pretty much anything. But I just feel like Will Smith, man, it just bringing his stature down, like just the shit that she's talking about him. It's not a good look for him.
It's so crazy. That same night he slapped Chris Rock, he won the Oscar for that King David movie. He won the Oscar for it.
Yeah, people don't even remember that anymore.
And he bodied it in that movie too. He fucking murdered. That was one of the best performances he's probably ever put on. And nobody talks about it because of the whole Oscars bullshit.
Yeah, just sad, man. So hopefully he can Will Smith can come back from this, and hopefully Jada can just stop talking about him.
I think Jada's gonna get booed out of the building the next time she makes an appearance, like at an award show or whatever. She's gonna get booed out of the building.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
They're gonna do to her what they did to LeBron the first time he came back to Cleveland after he went to the Heat.
So we'll
It's
see.
gonna be real,
We'll
bro.
see what
It's gonna
happens.
be real. Yes. So until next time for King Khan, this is Conscious Kurt for another edition of Shifting the Culture. Take care. God bless. Have a good one. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.